Thanks for getting the recording, TJ.
No problem. I've done this a few times at this
Yeah.
point. That kind of feels like second nature. I usually we've just started kind of like editing these and adding an introduction and making them a little bit more formal for the microcast. So that record feature is really helpful, but it's I usually start it like right away before even like turning my camera on. Anyways, Megan, thanks for coming back. Really appreciate it. I know we've got a lot to cover, so just want to jump right into things. Yeah, I hope at this point everybody on our team is familiar with what you do. But just like a brief introduction, Megan, you are a certified personal trainer. You're the founder of Strong Runner Chicks. You're a yoga teacher. You are also an ultra runner, and you have like a collegiate track background and cross country background. So you really understand kind of where strength kind of like interconnects with running. And that's why we work with you. That's why we partner with you and recommend to our athletes, that they seek out your advice and your expertise when thinking about like leveling up as athletes. And I guess you'll talk a lot about this. But I just want to say, if you're an athlete who has dealt with a lot of persistent injury, or is you've been doing some strength work, but now you don't know where to go, your training is starting to change a little bit, maybe you're leveling up, you're doing more speed work than you were doing before, or you're thinking about bigger goals than you've been pursuing before, working with a strength coach is an integral part of an overall holistic kind of view of a training plan. And it is so important in this process, not just for maintaining health, but also, for like leveling up and improving. And you can become so much more confident when you have that strength and that strong base of strength. So, gosh, if you guys have any questions that come up throughout this call, please use the chat box. Towards the end of the call, we'll have some time for a little Q&A with Coach Megan. But essentially today, like Coach Megan is going to talk to us about like the how, the what, the why behind doing strength work as a runner, what it kind of looks like, how it completes the overall picture of your plan, and the importance in what we're doing. So yeah, I guess Megan, if I can pass it off to you, that'd be great.
Thanks, TJ. And I want to say for those of you who've seen the first one of these, we just didn't hit record. So it won't be a total repeat. I've added some additional information, a few insights here and there. And this is meant to be interactive too. So if you do have questions, of course, if you don't want to be on recording, just type them in the chat, or we'll pause the recording or stop it at the end so you can ask those. My email inbox is open too, so feel free to just respond or get to me after this too if you just want to talk one-on-one. I'm always happy to offer consults to you all, of course at no cost, just to chat through, what you have in mind and what you're looking for, and see how we can reach your goals through strength. Because strength isn't everything. I admit that strength can do a lot for your running, but there's so many different pieces and components. And so it's one of the building blocks. And hopefully that, helps give you a foundation for how you can build strength into your routine. And of course, the other way around, you don't want to end up having to work around strength too much. So just figuring out where it fits in. TJ, I don't know if I can share. I'll try sharing my screen. I think it's disabled.
I'll make you an admin really quickly.
Yeah. The coffee's already kicking in. So I'm
yeah,
talking fast.
Mine too.
Slow down.
Finally. Let me see here. How do I do that? I can't remember.
Your pace is great. You're not talking too fast.
Okay, good deal. Thanks. Good to see
How's my
you here.
pace? Extra slow as usual. Okay.
Well, I could tell you maybe
Make
just woke up. I did get a run in before this. Some easy Friday miles.
She's on.
I've actually been up for a while. For a while.
Oh, okay.
Let's see here. Okay.
Okay, thank you. I'll share my screen. Oh, okay. New computer here, trying to figure this out. My old one crashed on me. Interesting. Sorry, this is difficult. It's giving me a lot of options on what I can share with you all. Safari, Google Chrome. Okay. I apologize. I'm going to try to figure this out.
No problem. I think that
First time, yeah.
if it were me in your shoes, I would have no idea what I'm doing. So we'll just take our time.
Super interesting. I don't know if there's a way for me to quickly send it. My computer doesn't want to let me share my screen.
Can you share just your
Wait,
your entire screen?
maybe it's going to work now. There we go. Does this work?
Awesome.
Cool. We'll make this bigger too. Presentation. You'd think this is my first time ever doing this. Does anyone know how to go to slide view? No, I'll figure it out. Oh, here we go. Start slideshow. Okay. So again, feel free as we go along to type in the chat if you have any questions or comments, remarks. I have an interactive component, an option. We can do a few, strength exercises today for those of you that want to, but we don't have to spend too much time there. So some of that can be kind of takeaway and homework for you to do in your next strength session. So really this is about how to make the most of your strength and your running. As I said before, I know strength isn't the be all end all. And so I wouldn't say it's a secret ingredient, but it is one of the key components to being a strong, durable runner and athlete and human. So today we'll talk a little bit about some of the benefits of strength, some mistakes that I see runners make when they are lifting or strength training, how to schedule it into your routine, which I know is really that critical component that a lot of runners kind of get hung up on or that can be tricky. The fundamental movement patterns. So I really break it down into movements versus muscle groups because, our body and as runners, we're really functioning as one single unit, right? So climbing a hill, we're using our arms, we're using all different components of our bodies versus just certain muscle groups. So talking through that, key takeaways, and then time for Q&A. And I didn't have the interactive component on here, but it will pop in. So importance of strength and mobility for runners. I don't have citations for all of these, but I'm more than happy to follow up with them. These are some of the well-known benefits and well-researched over the past 20, 30 plus years. There are studies that go back to 1900s about strength and how good it is for athletes as a whole, and also how that applies specifically to running. There's more and more research. I just was listening to the SWAT podcast the other day, and they talked about a study that just came out, I think a couple weeks ago, about how one strength session each week can improve performance, especially for trail runners. And so we're getting more specific with how we can implement strength into a runner's routine to benefit us. But just knowing that that minimal effective dose, even just one session a week, can go a long way. So don't let that be the enemy of perfect be the enemy of good. If you can't get in 3 sessions a week or 2, just try for 1. So these are some elements, it does improve overall fitness and health. So there are some long-term benefits, especially as we start to age. So if you are an aging athlete, I mean, we're all aging, right? Just think about how your muscle mass can be affected. It'll start to go down, your bone mineral density. So strength really provides that foundation to keep you healthy as a human and as an athlete. It also helps to reduce injury risk. One of the top reasons for injury when looking through some studies on, looking across all runners, like why do runners get injured? Well, overuse, sure, overuse is one, but muscular imbalance or muscular weakness is also a really top driver of injury, I guess. So that one is really big. As simple as improving your strength routine can really impact your injury risk. It also improves your overall neuromuscular coordination. So, again, if you're on the trails, especially, right, going downhill, you really have to be able to control your body and balance and footing and all of that. And so improving that neuromuscular coordination, your balance, your footing, and your form is super critical. And then, more so for road runners or athletes, you might really be focused on running economy. Strength can also benefit that in some sense if you're doing it in the right way. And we'll talk through what that looks like. So a lot of benefits here, and I could probably talk about these all day. What do I see? And I'll briefly go over this since I know some of you were on our last call. What do I see some mistakes runners are making when strength training or athletes? One is lifting like we're bodybuilders, right? We're not training for bodybuilding competitions, so we don't need to train like them. And a lot of routines you'll find on the internet are so centered around arm day, leg day, biceps and back, chest and triceps. We don't need to do that as runners. And even if you walk into your local gym, right, and you go to a fitness class, whether it's Orange Theory or I'm not going to pick on any names, CrossFit. I've been to a CrossFit class and I thought I was going to get a full body workout, right, for running. And then I walked out and all that was sore were my shoulders. And I felt like I got injured the next day from going to this class, right? So that's one of the kinds of mistakes that runners will make, is focusing too much on certain muscle groups when really we need to focus on the movement and how it's going to be specific, that principle of specificity for our running. We can also overdose on it, right? We don't need to OD on strength. As runners, running should be our primary focus, just like we can overdose on cycling or cross training or swimming. If we're really not training for an event and we're trying to train for, say, a 50K or even a half marathon, we don't need strength 4 days a week. We don't really even need a 3. I mean, 2 to 3 is really great. If you're doing 4 days, maybe you're doing some core, maybe you're counting 10-minute circuits, that's fine, but we don't need 4 days a week of 1 hour strength unless you're really, if you enjoy that, that's fine. But just saying it won't really benefit, there's kind of that threshold at which it stops benefiting your running performance. So just know that. Endurance lifting. So a lot of runners too will, and I've been guilty of this, doing high reps, right? Being able to say, yeah, I can do 20 push-ups because I've really been working on them, or I could plank all day or do glute bridges all day. And while these exercises are really beneficial for runners, if we're just constantly doing the same routine, or again, I don't want to pick on things, but like the mountain legs routine, excellent, right? Excellent starting point. But if you're doing mountain legs time and time again, you're just going to get so good at it that it's not going to benefit you. There's also a principle of overload that's been really well researched, saying that you do have to overload your muscles in new ways. And not necessarily doing different exercises all the time, but just adding that principle of overload to get stronger. And so, yeah, that kind of goes to show you don't also need to lift per se. You don't have to lift heavy barbells, but just making sure that you do use a weight that is challenging for you. And so, for instance, push up, if that becomes too easy, you might add a band around your back while you're doing that, or, mini bands are really good for exercises like glute bridges to incorporate, different elements into that routine. A stability ball is also a good runner's best friend for core and making that a little more challenging. Lastly, the other mistake I see is not following a structured or appropriate plan. So this, again, is kind of an easy one to fall into, right? If you're starting to go to Orange Theory, CrossFit, any sort of fitness class, F45, you name it, they don't know your a runner and you have a race coming up, right? And so if you got a race on Saturday and you're going to a workout Wednesday or Thursday in the week, you might be really, really sore. They might decide they're going to throw in legs and HIIT training and just all the things. So definitely no. It doesn't mean you can't go to a gym like that, but I would talk with the coach of your class and see, is there a way they can accommodate your routine and, not going maybe a few days before a big race or before a big long run, since that could be detrimental to your running and your performance. So the benefit too of having a coach is that I periodize for athletes, meaning just like TJ does and Zoe and your coaches, having a periodization that follows the structure of your racing schedule ahead. And so we'll look 8 weeks, 12 weeks out and see where do we want to add the most strength in. And then if we're a week or two out from a race, not the best time, right, to add in new routines or anything crazy. And then again, doing a different workout every week, there is power and consistency, just like in running, right? You don't want to switch things up all the time. You do want to go back to those core workouts or core sessions that you know are going to have the biggest bang for your buck. So those are a few things, and hopefully from these mistakes, you can learn what not to do, and then we'll get in what to do when we schedule strength. When we look at a routine, because I know this is kind of bread and butter, right? When you walk into a gym, or maybe you have some equipment at home and you're looking to implement a strength routine at home, these are the 5 main components, I would say, kind of your bread and butter to a strength routine. Of course, you want to warm up a little bit. I wouldn't necessarily say you need to run before strength. Do what is most important for that day. So if for that day, I'm a big fan of like separating them if you can. I know that's not reasonable for us all. Say you only have an hour or 90 minutes in the morning to do running and strength. I had this the other day, actually. I did an hour run, and then I noticed, though, I was compromised on strength, but I did 20 or 30 minutes of strength right after. So, that's totally okay too. You're probably pretty warmed up by then, but doing a few dynamic stretches, a few mobility drills, if you're doing strength at say 5, 6, 7 p.m. after maybe a work day you've been sitting or you're kind of tight, I'd make sure definitely to do some mobility, because you don't want to go into, a goblet squat or a deadlift or something that you're about to do without some sort of warm up. That said, you don't need to go overboard. So a few exercises that would kind of benefit you, maybe it's like a body weight squat or some glute bridges that are unweighted just to start, bird dogs, you name it, right? So there's a lot of things you can do there for a warm up, but just a few exercises. And then moving into the components, one is a squat or a lunge. So this one's really going to be focused on the front sides of our legs, right? The power muscles, our quads as runners, super important that those are strong to help prevent knee injuries. Oh yes, marry your strength work with your pre-existing run routine. I love that. Yeah, so seeing where you can kind of add it before or after your run, and we'll talk about how to build it into. So single leg, I would also say, is really important for runners. Step ups are kind of an eccentric contraction for our single leg. Split squats as well. The reason single leg is so important, right, is because as runners, we're never really on 2 feet at once. We're always kind of balancing from one foot to the other. And so just making that specific to running is really, critical. Hinge, that one a lot of people forget about. So we probably know what deadlifts are like. We don't have to lift super heavy deadlifts to start. Single leg can be really great for this. Single leg deadlift with a kettlebell, a dumbbell, some sort of weight. You could even do these with a band. I could demo that for you if you wanted. But basically standing on a band, it's like a banded good morning, it's called. Those are good as well, just to kind of start out, not to load yourself too heavy. Glute bridges, single leg glute bridges are really critical. Single leg, stability ball, hamstring curl, you name it. That's all going to get your posterior chain. So important that you have strong glutes and strong hamstrings. Squats and lunges, sure, they'll touch on that a bit, but they're a little more quad dominant focused. So that'll help again with the quadriceps muscle and that similar movement. Push exercises, I do think it's still important that runners get a little bit of upper body strength so that we are balanced out. If we're in the end of a race, we tend to, as runners, it just happens, our shoulders come forward. Also, sometimes we're carrying really heavy packs, right? Or our packs can feel heavy at the end of an ultra marathon, or say you've been running for 12 hours, it's going to start to hurt, right? And so we have to strengthen our upper back muscles and pull exercises, as well as the push muscles to help just balance that out. I do see sometimes the importance of push come into play if you know rock climbing or you like to climb. Rock climbers do a lot of pulling, and that actually causes their forward shoulders too. So just to say it's important that we do both to balance out. So push-ups, overhead shoulder press. I like to do those single arm a lot of times. Kneeling, because that'll also work your core a little bit. Chest press is another good one. Again, not having to do these super heavy or anything, but challenging yourself in new ways. Pulling exercises, it's going to be everything from a pull up, and it could be with a band to start, pull downs, lat pull downs, overhand, underhand grip. Rows are another really good one. And I have so many variations of rows that can really make it runner specific, and carrying and core as well. So the carrier core, that's like one thing I think runners do a lot of is core, right? And so it's good that we do core. That's excellent. I also think having, functional movement patterns, meaning applying to kind of day-to-day life, like a farmer carry with 2 dumbbells or kettlebells at your side, suitcase carry is carrying 1, a plank, those are really going to help with some of the different muscle groups that are involved as you carry things across a long distance. Even if you're carrying a light load, just carrying your body weight for that long and knowing how to balance that out. So carrying core is your last one. Additionally, I mentioned some of these terms, and I'm happy to define them for you in a bit more detail. Rotational movement is important, I'll say that. In running, I've actually had this happen. I got so focused on anti-rotation because I didn't want to be one of those runners that, rotate side to side too much. So I really focused on everything anti-rotation. Like I'm going to focus on planks and Palloff press, which is a resisting rotation without recognizing the importance of rotation. And if I'm going over your head, I can pause here. I know I get kind of in the weeds on these things, but this is all kind of just to say, this is the importance of kind of thinking harder about your strength routine or how you can be more strategic with it.
Coach Megan,
oh yeah.
Can I just jump in for a second?
Sure.
I think,
Yeah.
one, I love the point about rotation. I was actually just talking with an athlete this week who was struggling to have enough mobility in their upper body, and it was affecting what their legs were doing and what their feet were doing. I think it is common that we overlook stuff like that. So to me, I'm like, oh, we're not really getting in the weeds. We're actually talking about something that's really important. In proper running form, we always talk about having a relaxed upper body. And so if we're too stiff, if we're not able to move, it's particularly hard for athletes on the downhills too. I hope everybody paid attention to that. I did want to go back to the hinge just to see if I could clarify something with you. So with the deadlifts and the glute bridges, do you generally recommend that athletes do those as single leg exercises, or do you recommend doing it with both legs?
I generally, if you're doing like a hex bar deadlift, that seems to be the Instagrammable thing these days, is like a hex bar deadlift or a barbell deadlift. That I would say do double leg if it's a strength focus. Generally though, on the hinge, I like to see single leg if you can. I would say the caveat there though is that a lot of times if you're doing single leg and it's foreign to you or it's feeling unusual, your low back can kick in really quickly on single leg hinge. So I would really just be cognizant that you're doing it correctly first, right? If you're going to load something and start adding weight, I'd just be really careful. Even a single leg glute bridge, right? I just notice low back wants to kick in, or, you really want to just be mindful of some of those things and make sure that for instance, your hips are pretty balanced as you're doing a glute bridge. Same with that single leg deadlift, right? A lot of times our low back will kick in quickly if we're not careful. So just being careful as you start to do single leg, but I do think that's important.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks so much for clarifying that. And I would just say, using proper form, obviously that's important for getting the right muscles to fire and engage in these exercises. So it's like all the more reason to have a session with you, get on a video call and make sure that, at least at the beginning that you're able to like kind of dial in the specific movements. And I would, as somebody who's seen a lot of bad deadlift form and have had bad deadlift form myself, that one can be particularly tough, I think, to get single leg. And a lot of people overuse their back and they're not getting their posterior chains of fire. So, when in doubt, like reach out to the experts, let Coach Megan take a look at your form. She can do that over video right here on Zoom, and it works really well. So just to plug
good point.
that
Good point. I guess I would say, yeah, if you're kind of in doubt, maybe go for the double leg to start, 2 legs at once. Single leg would be a bit more advanced, but ideally moving towards that eventually, or single leg unweighted, less weight, versus as you're adding weight, go double just to be safe. So good call out for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah,
appreciate that.
A lot to consider. Yeah, with rotation, that comes down to like thoracic spine mobility, and our T-spine is a really big element in our back, and that can get really tight and tied up. And so just making sure you're doing what you need to care for that too. And some of that can't be accomplished through strength. Sometimes it's about getting, a massage or foam rolling or doing those kinds of things that help you prevent tightness and tension from building. Because a lot of strength is actually getting your muscles to be tight and tense, and the elasticity of the muscles, like your calves, you want those to be quick and to help prevent, other things like Achilles issues, for instance. So you're teaching your muscles and strength a lot of times to be tight and tense in some ways. And so to loosen those up or to relax them, mobility work would be good too. Plyometrics too, I'll just allude to that. I would say it's one that also can be kind of a slippery slope. Like I think plyos are great for runners and you should incorporate them, and I would put them into runners' routines, but I wouldn't jump right into them too quickly. So I'd be just really careful as you're starting with plyometrics that you're, whether it's a single leg hop on one leg, or I have, a number of different exercises I could recommend to someone. It could be the ladder drills. You've probably seen those ladders before, hopping on and off of maybe a low box, or a low, just be really careful, a step, for instance. We do want those for quick turnover and for our feet and our, Achilles tendon to be really quick on our feet. But we also just want to be really careful as we do proceed into plyometrics that you're doing them with good form and not doing too much. So like low effective dose on those. And then accessory work is everything from like tricep exercises to, triceps, biceps, calf raises. I would say those are still important and you can add those in, right? If you have 5 exercises you're already doing and you have room for 6 or 7 or 8, then sure, add in some plyos, add in some accessory work, just do it with some caution as well. Okay. Well, we got into that. I wanted to kind of pause here to allow you, if you have the space, I know some of you might be at work or in a place you can't necessarily, maybe you're in the car listening, you can't necessarily do these, but I wanted to list out a few sort of self-assessments. And I don't like to put a gold standard on where you should be here. Aiming for 30 seconds on some of these timed ones or 20 to 30 repetitions is kind of a good starting point to maybe shoot for, but it doesn't mean you're a bad runner or don't feel bad if you can't do these. I, a lot of times can't do 30 glute bridges, especially if I just did a run. When we're compromised, those can be tough. So just know that these are just, if you're someone that likes to shoot for what should I be around or what should I aim for, you want a goal to shoot for, I'd probably say around 30 repetitions for most of these or 30 seconds. So one of them is just a single leg stand. That's basically just standing on one leg. And then I said reach, so plus reach if you want to add a reach. So you'd basically start standing just on a single leg, and then reach forward like you're going to do a deadlift, or you're going to touch your toe on the other leg. This one's done in a lot of yoga classes too. You'll just see it as part of, dancer pose or something of that nature. So just trying this on your own. And then if you're really good at single leg stand and you're thinking, ooh, can I like bring my, knee up to my chest or out to the side? Just kind of getting better at standing on a single leg would really help with balance. Closing your eyes as well. That's a tough component to that. Side plank is another one. Trying to hold this for at least 30 seconds on each side. Hey, if you're at 30, 45 seconds, 60 seconds. So going up to 90 seconds, I think at least is beneficial. And if you can go past 90, you're in a really good spot. So feel good about that. You might try to add a top leg lift as well. So lifting your top leg when you're in the side plank and holding that position if possible. Front plank as well. A lot of us might do this one. We just want to make sure we're doing it correctly. If you can do a front plank for 30, again, try to go up to 45, 60 seconds, 90 seconds. And if you can do that, think about lifting one leg. So if you can lift one leg in the front plank, keep a strong, keep your hips centered towards the ground as you're doing this. That's another good sign. You kind of want to test out both sides too, because that'll really test out how is each side faring. A lot of us might feel like we get imbalance on one side or the other. So see how you're doing there. And then these last three are all for our lower body. So we have single leg glute bridge, single leg step ups, and then calf raises. Single leg step ups, essentially, all step ups are single leg usually, but that's just saying try to do them with, say, your right leg leading the entire time. So see if you can have your right leg lead up and down for at least 20 or 30 repetitions. Probably part of the mountain legs routine. So you could just try it there, but should be in a good place if you can do 20 or 30 on each side. Calf raises really get some people, as well as the glute bridges. So really trying to do those with good form, just body weight to start, but lifting up and down on that left or right calf for 30 repetitions. That can be pretty tough. I'll say I usually feel that a little bit after. So just getting to where you can do some of these is a good starting point. Single leg stand with eyes closed. That is so underrated, right? Proprioception and all that, and just trying to get our balance there. Yeah, closing your eyes on anything, I think, adds a new element. So these are starting points. And I would also say we don't need to be on like a BOSU ball. I have a Mobo board. I don't feel like I use it enough. I don't know if anyone's heard of that one. Those are good if you want to add a little extra element. I got it because I was like, I'm kind of bored with single leg stuff. Let me add, a little bit of instability, but I would just be really cautious if you're doing these on a BOSU all the time, like whether it's a calf raise or a squat or lunge. We don't typically run on, we run on uneven terrain, right? But the ground isn't moving beneath us, like a BOSU's moving beneath us. So just trying to kind of keep sight of that. And I'd really say focus on like sturdy ground to start for most of these. Yeah. Okay, well, we won't necessarily go into those because I think a lot of people are sitting down having their coffee, but if you want to do these later, come back to those because you'll get this after. So I wanted to just say a couple things about how to structure your strength, and then we'll kind of go into like sample plans and answer questions specific to that. I would start with compound movements and major lifts first. And what I mean by that is that if you're going to be doing, say, hex bar deadlifts or front squats or anything that really start with legs first, I would kind of say in general, but start with what is important first. Just like I said, whatever you want to do that day, if your run's more important than your lift, try to do that beforehand. Finish with the smaller stuff because you may run out of time, right? That's what life is, right? Sometimes you don't have time to do the carries at the end or the tricep extensions you wanted to do or the dips or whatever it was. So start with the main stuff, start with the critical stuff while you have the most energy. I would also say when you're starting with plyometrics, put that in the beginning. I would not want to see someone try box jumps or anything like that at the end of a session when you're already taxed and tired and compromised. So start with the main stuff first, and then proceed to the other things. 2 to 3 days a week, again, a range. I would even say 1 to 3, like one day is better than none. So just remember that. Try to separate those days though. So I would rather see someone do just 1 day a week than try to do, say, 2 days back to back, right? We just want to be careful about that. So separate them by at least 2 days, meaning if you do something on Monday, like a strength sesh on Monday, wait, you guys usually rest Monday. I usually rest Monday. We'll say Tuesday. If you do a strength session on Tuesday, then try not to do another one until Thursday, Friday, or Sunday, something like that. So 20 to 60 minutes, that's kind of a wide range. Even 10 is okay. I just don't like to go past 60 minutes or recommend anyone do that. Even 45 is sufficient. However, if you're only doing 10-minute sessions and it's like every single day, you're probably not getting the most bang for your buck. I'd rather you do a couple really quality sessions than, kind of like if you did running intervals every day. We could do strides every day for 5 minutes, but I think you'd get more benefit if you did a few critical sessions or workouts. Different phases, like I said, for different seasons. Usually winter time or the off season for most runners is a really good time to get strong, to build into some of the stuff maybe you wouldn't do during the season. So now that we're in summer season, a lot of us have more races. I would just say proceed with caution. Don't try to start a new routine 2 weeks out or 4 weeks out from a race. Give yourself at least a couple months. Most of my plans are 8 to 12 weeks in length, and I recommend at least 8, if not 12 or 16 weeks to really see a full benefit from going through some strength cycles. We would switch it up to at least every 4 to 6 weeks, if not, closer to 3 weeks. So something of that nature as well. Another one too, so to save yourself some time, in terms of how long you should rest after certain exercises, consider supersets, which is just 2 back-to-back exercises. So it's like doing, say, goblet squats or split squat with a push-up or with a row. So doing those 2 back-to-back, or maybe it's a circuit, right? Maybe you do your push, pull, squat, hinge, carry or core, and then you do it all over again. So that just gives you a little extra recovery time between each one. I know as runners, at least for me, speaking for me, I have a lot of trouble resting, and I've seen this with a lot of athletes as well. Giving yourself that full recovery of like 2 minutes in between each set, at least 90 seconds, if not 2 minutes between sets, can be really difficult just to sit there. So just being mindful of that and knowing that you can do other things in between. You just don't want to do squats, deadlifts, and then you're really not getting the most bang for your buck because you're just taxing your legs too much. So giving yourself the rest, again, like we do in running, usually you have a jog or an easy something for 90 seconds or more in between exercises or sets. So just kind of applying that same principle to running as well, or to strength into running. I like to find any overlap because I think it's somewhat relatable. So sets and reps. So how many sets and reps should you be doing? 1 RM is also known as 1 rep max. I do have percentages for some of these different ones. I'm just not going to go into the weeds too much, but most of the time, I guess you want to be lifting somewhere between, like, if you're in endurance or hypertrophy, some of these phases, hypertrophy is kind of like a combination between endurance and strength and power. You want to kind of feel like most reps should feel like you could do at least 1 or 2 more. So similar to running, right? Normally we don't do our workouts at 100% effort every time. So you want to do more like 70, 80% effort for a lot of these sets and reps. For endurance, it might feel more like 60%, like you're kind of like, yeah, I could do more weight. It's not at your max weight just because you're doing more repetitions, a little less rest in between. For hypertrophy, you're kind of going that in between. And I feel like I should draw a line to each of these and like, anyway, I'm not going to try to draw a line between these and running workouts, but they're like, think about tempos and shorter intervals and all of that. It's somewhat similar in this way to getting different benefit. Strength and power, I do think a lot of runners, this is kind of the most bang for your buck section. However, it's also the probably highest risk area, I would say. And I don't say that to scare you. It's just that in a 4 to 6 set, like if you're only doing 5 reps, right, or 3 reps of an exercise, you're probably lifting pretty heavy, right, to challenge your body. That also means you're more prone to doing something incorrectly or getting injured if you're doing something incorrectly. So just being really cognizant. I usually would start people in the endurance phase. We'd move into hypertrophy, then we move into strength or power. So a lot of runners aren't spending a ton of weeks in strength or power. In a 12-week cycle, you might spend 2 weeks or 3 weeks in a strength power phase. So you're really just not doing that a ton, unless you have a strength coach or you've got someone keeping an eye on you, I would probably say, or you feel like you've got it really down. So like I said, you need all 3 phases to really get the most bang for your buck, just at different times in the season. And again, the biggest mistake I see a lot of runners make is just being in that endurance phase all the time. So trying to at least get your way into hypertrophy, kind of that 8 to 12 rep range or 8 to 10 reps. And if you can, going down into strength power would be beneficial too. All right. Any questions so far?
I've got some questions, Coach Megan, but
Okay.
it's like I feel like we should probably wait to the end, and then we could just do, maybe 10 minutes of Q&A or 8 minutes of Q&A.
Yeah. All right. So I know this isn't the most legible routine, but this is just a sample of what it might look like. Like, where are you going to fit this into your weekly routine, right? So maybe Monday is your rest day, or you do a light run or something. Tuesday and Thursday, I would primarily say, I guess, kind of going back a little bit here. So like, when should you do strength, right? That's the biggest question for a lot of runners. When should I do it? A lot of studies are showing that the most ideal days to do this is hard days hard, easy days easy. So keep your strength on your hard days because you'll get the recovery in between. I've done it both ways. Being a college athlete, at first I was doing the hard days just like this, actually. I was doing Tuesdays, a workout in the morning, and then a PM lift session. You really don't need the extra run in there. It's just if someone's doing a double day or something, lift session would be PM. Or if possible, you might do AM workout and then a short 20-30 minute lift session right after. Give yourself that extra recovery, right? And then that way you're not running into, if you've got a race on Saturday, also if it's a big race, I wouldn't say do strength on Thursday right before, but if you do have a race or like a critical workout or long run on Saturday, Sunday, you don't want to go right into that with really heavy legs from a lift the day before. So I actually followed this week. So I did Tuesday, Thursday for strength and seemed to work out pretty well, not too sore going into the weekend. The other option though that I would say, and I've also had this done, is doing your lift sessions or strength on your easy days. So say that's Wednesday and Friday, or it's Wednesday and Sunday. I would almost say Wednesday, Sunday might be better, just because you don't want to go into that Saturday run, especially if it's a long run, feeling really taxed from the day before, kind of depending if you're sore or if you're doing more leg work. So that is another option. I did that in my second college because I transferred. So the first one was more like this. The second one I found was, I don't know. I mean, it might have been beneficial, but it's hard to say. I found I was always sore on workout days because we did strength the day before. So I would just be mindful of that. If you're noticing that you're always sore on your workout days and your legs feel like lead, sure, you might be getting some adaptation compensation, but it's probably kind of at too high of a risk, I would say, of tearing something, of pulling a hamstring, et cetera. So I would try to kind of keep the lift sessions on a day before you can take a little bit of an easy day, at least when starting. But I would love to hear too from you all. I'm sure some of this is trial and error, right? Some people thrive on one routine and other people thrive on another. So we're all different humans, and N of one, like, we're different people. And so what works for someone might be different. And for you, if you're doing 10-minute routines or 15-minute routines, maybe you have a Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday approach, or, something a little bit different than what's in this plan.
Yeah, I'd love to jump in at this point. I think something, one that I see this all the time is the overdone strength work the day before a workout really negatively affects your ability not only to run well, but that soreness has a neuromuscular effect where your biomechanics start to break down. And when we reinforce poor biomechanics and we don't have the right patterns happening, we start to develop bad habits. We also see this a lot with the overdone Friday strength work before the Saturday long run, where an athlete is just so sore going into Saturday that the quality of that long run becomes a slog almost instantly. I think it's very difficult as an athlete, I think particularly a runner, to get this right, to figure out a proper schedule for implementing the training. Something that like I have seen and what we do, you know, with our athletes is like 2 workouts a week isn't really feasible for recreational runners. It's too much intensity, it's too much load. So generally, you know, our athletes have a workout in the middle of the week, and then they have 48 hours to recover from that before the long run. Typically, you know, what we see in athletes who don't have a lot of experience is they really need that rest period. You know, the Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday layout of like workout, rest, or like rest, easy run, workout, easy run, you know, is something that especially in trail running, I personally only really see elite athletes doing, and really, really strong runners during maybe like threshold phase of training, where those runs aren't super intense. And like, for me personally, like I always feel like a good day for strength is a day that you do your workout. That way, like what you mentioned, that easy day is easy principle, really allowing the body to recover. We're focusing on running, you know, a zone 1 run, aerobic threshold and below, ideally even easier after a workout day. And then you go into your long run feeling fresh, because we want to have the ability to run with the best biomechanics that we can, with the most efficient form that we have. And when we're sore, we don't have that like stride length. We don't have the leg quickness and quickness of stride that it's necessary to reinforce those things. We don't have that when you're really sore. And so sometimes like people who are powerlifting, lifting too much, you know, they're not using a strength coach. They're kind of going in blind on these things. Then they end up too sore, or they don't have a plan. They're winging it. They get too sore. And so, you know, I always, I think as a coach, end up with athletes incorporating back-to-back strength sessions. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, because I think with the Wednesday workout, that really only gives us a few options. Like if we do a Tuesday workout, I prefer that workout to be really easy. Like Tuesday strength workout should be really like not taxing, because then we're affected negatively on the Wednesday workout. And so like any heavy strength work really is best after that workout on Wednesday. And then again, you know, you could use Thursday as an opportunity to get another strength workout in, because you've got Friday to recover, so it doesn't affect your long run Saturday. And then again, you know, if you're trying to do 2 a week, a lot of athletes don't have the, you know, the not endurance, but like it's tough to want to do a workout, like a strength workout after your long run. But that, if you want to keep hard days hard, that's a day to like do your mountain legs right after. And so I always, and this is why it's so important to like work with Coach Megan, taking your plan and giving and showing it to her and being like, this is what I'm doing. I only do 1 workout a week. I only do my workouts on Wednesday, and Tuesday is, you know, I do some strides, and Sunday I do some strides, but like Wednesday and Saturday, those are my hard days. Like, how do we build a plan with that in mind? I guess that was maybe more of a statement than a question, Coach Megan, but, you know, if an athlete had to do back-to-back strength, would you ever recommend one day being the upper body day and then the other day being the lower body day? Or are you thinking about this as like a holistic picture? Let's do both things. We start with the legs, then we move to the upper body towards the end of the workout, and then we repeat that same routine 2 days later?
Yeah, that's a great question and call out. And yeah, I know a lot of your athletes, Coach TJ and the team, like you all do these Wednesday workouts, right? And I don't normally do 2 workouts a week either. So, oh, for light body strength after long runs. Yes. Okay. Zoe had a good call out too. So I was going to actually allude to this too. I'll speak to it in a little bit here. So I guess in that case, if we'll say Wednesday is your workout day, if you can do strength that same day, right? Ideally separated afterwards, like in the PM or right after, or it's Thursday, I would say do one of your quality strength sessions, your most quality strength session, Wednesday or Thursday would be my say. Ideally Wednesday, if not Thursday, and make that one a little more leg focused, like lift a little heavier. That's your primary session, right? If you're just going to get one in, do that. But then I would say if you, and this is just kind of general guidance, I don't want to say like do this to everybody, but just what I would do in that situation is that. In addition, if you're looking for a second place to put in strength, to Zoe's point, I would not lift heavy on Sunday. However, because you have a rest day likely or easy run or something recovery Monday, I would say do some sort of strength. Maybe it's unweighted, maybe it's core focused, a little more upper body on Sunday if you can. But then, as TJ's point too, if Sunday, for instance, you're out camping or you go out every weekend and you're not anywhere near, not that you need a gym, right? But if you wanted more gym time per se, you could do that quality first session, more leg focused Wednesday right after the workout or in the evening. And then Thursday, I'm okay with that, right? It's just more like not working the same muscle groups. So Thursday, you could do more of a, say, upper body / core / accessory work like calf raises or something of that nature that's less driven on hamstrings, quadriceps, glutes. Maybe you really hit those muscle groups and age, that kind of movement pattern for the legs on Wednesday. And then Thursday is your second one. So I guess in some instance, yes, I will say I've never really prescribed my own athletes Wednesday, Thursday back to back. But for those athletes that do a Wednesday workout, it's Wednesday and then it's, hey, Sunday, is there a possibility you can get something in most weeks? Maybe it's every other week and it's not heavy. You're not necessarily going to the hex bar or the barbell after a long run. I don't advise that. I agree. Too high of an injury risk, but more so mountain legs, some lighter stuff, still going to have a little bit of an impact, but nothing crazy. A core routine, anything of that nature.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification. I think, again, I just want to go back to that. This is really individual. This is why it's really vital for an athlete to work with an expert. You are your own N of one. Like if you're doing workouts, your strength workout on Wednesday, following your workout, and you're noticing like the quality of your Thursday run is just diminished because of the muscular breakdown and how sore you're getting. I encourage athletes to tweak with that a little bit. Okay, well, let's move that to Thursday post run. You still have a full 24 hours rest before your long run. That Friday run for most athletes is really short. And so we're not out there for as long reinforcing bad habits. So I would say, if you're an athlete who feels like after a Wednesday workout, you do strength, you're so sore Thursday, you can't complete your full run, tweak that schedule a little bit. Like Coach Megan, mentioned, we're thinking about, one really critical strength session. And then we have these kind of auxiliary sessions to help build these other components to a well-rounded kind of like athlete. And then you can kind of fill things in with those sessions. It's tough because as runners, running economy is super important, reinforcing good, patterns of motion, biomechanics, making sure we're in the proper neuro pathway that we're trying to really reinforce and get that muscle memory going so we run better and more efficient all the time, that can be impacted by strength. And so you've got to be like a learner in all of this. You have to build your self-awareness and kind of like constantly be evaluating how you feel and not being afraid to like shift things around if you need to. I know specifically for my stronger runners, my elite runners, that Wednesday, they've got a double, they're hammering like that morning workout. The better you get, the more sore and sometimes tired you get after those workouts. And like that Wednesday run, that Thursday run, easy run just starts to feel like too much of a grind. So it's like we often shift strength to Thursday. And yeah, technically that's an easy day, but it actually raises up the quality of the whole week of training when they have more time to recover and it's not affecting the run as much.
That's a good observation. Yeah. It's kind of asking yourself sometimes, what run can you sort of not sacrifice, right? But what run is it Friday, or what run can be really easy? I know I was feeling deadlifts this morning, and so, my run wasn't the best, but it's a Friday run and it's not like a quality session. So it's good to know which run can be that way. So yeah, good call out.
Thanks. I know we kind of, we don't have a lot of time left, and we kind of just jumped into what I think is the hardest thing for athletes, which is the scheduling side of this.
Absolutely.
Maybe if I can just ask another question before we kind of run out of time here, Megan, but the overload principle that we kind of mentioned earlier in the call, if you're like an athlete who is self-prescribing strength and kind of maybe working off of like the mountain legs routine or another David Roche speed legs, I think, which are these great starting points for athletes. What's your advice? How do you know when you feel like you're not getting enough, like when you need to start adding like a weighted vest or some dumbbells to your lunges or to your step ups to continue to get the amount of like load and stress on the system that you need for adaptation?
Yeah, I would say, in general, some of it's timing. Like if you've been doing these routines for 3-4+ weeks, which a lot of us probably have been for like a month or more at a time, you're probably adapted, right? If you're doing the same thing for 4 weeks, I would say you're adapted to it. Just like if you did the same exact run, same exact pace over and over again, right? You'd probably start to feel like you could go a little faster, or you could add a little bit more to it. So I would say that would be a good time. In general, and if you feel like you could do 10 more reps or 20 more reps, or you do this routine and you're like, wow, I could have done that 4 more times. Like this is getting kind of easy, or it's getting boring. Like strength, I know strength can be boring or hard to make it fun, but you shouldn't be bored in the sense of like, wow, I've been doing this over and over again. I'm too good at it. It's not hard. You do want to feel a little bit sore here and there. So, I do advise, if you've not been feeling any soreness whatsoever from strength. And while I don't think soreness is the best indicator, it just is a sign sometimes that if you're not sore ever and it's been like weeks on end from strength, then maybe it's time to mix it up and add a little more of an overload to that exercise.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that made a ton of sense. Again, if it doesn't feel hard, probably not provoking adaptation. This is something I tell a lot of athletes just about their workout days. Like the workouts are supposed to feel challenging. That's how we're going to end up helping you grow as an athlete. And so kind of embracing that and making sure, as an athlete, when you're doing your own strength workouts, even if you are working with a coach, the onus is really on you to kind of be aware and evaluating like where you're at. And I think this is like, you want to take some of the guesswork out of this. Like, this is why you hire somebody like yourself, like Coach Megan. I know for me, like I personally work with a strength coach because I just need to have that plan. I can't always trust myself to, be able to self-evaluate all the time like that. And sometimes I don't want to, because that puts a little bit of unnecessary pressure on myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. It's good to have coaches in all aspects for that objectivity more so. I'm
Yeah,
seeing if we have any more. I don't know if I can click anymore. We'll see. Oh, considerations for your routine. So just some questions to kind of be asking yourself as we wrap up here. Injury is really important too. Anytime I start working with a new athlete, I am instantly asking them, what's your injury history like? Are you still experiencing anything? So really just making sure you address that before you jump into a strength plan is critical. Kind of evaluating what it looks like now. Are you noticing a link between it and your running performance? Especially as TJ said, like, are you noticing a link between when you do strength on certain days and how you feel the next day, et cetera? Yeah, and any takeaways that you have today. And then, of course, I'm available too. I do have a strength guide, sort of a DIY guide if you want to do that yourself. If you are a TR Mag or Outside Plus subscriber, you can just download that actually from their website. But I would say, there's real value in getting more of a customized routine or plan. So that one, I have a discounted rate from Microcosm. Always happy to do one-offs too. If you're just looking for a couple, maybe sessions or video sessions, I do have one-on-one clients that we just meet once a week for their strength routine or for one of their strength routines, and we go through their workout. I give them feedback on, hey, I noticed your back was rounding here. Let's fix that, things like that. And then kind of holding them accountable each week. So something of that nature, more than happy to talk through. Or if you're looking for more of that 12-week, 8-week kind of a program, you can always reach out to. So that's all I have. I know we're past time, so appreciate everyone's time, and hopefully this was helpful. And I appreciate everybody that typed in the chat too. It's always good feedback. So
thanks so much, Megan. Really, really appreciate you taking the time. Again, for like the 5th time today, I'm going to say hire Coach Megan. Working on strength is just vital to complete the overall picture of your kind of athletic training. There is no time like the present to do this. Her rate is really, really reasonable. Take advantage of this. I don't think you're going to find a better offering anywhere else. Please, like this is just so important for everybody to do. We all the coaches do this. Like I do it, Zoe does it, Drew does it, Kylie, Sarah, we all work on strength. It is an integral part of the process for us. It can be for you guys too. So anyways, thank you all so much. And I hope everybody has a great weekend. Yeah, get out on the trails, adventure. And yeah, we will see you next week.
thank you.
Bye. Thanks again,
Bye.
Megan.
Yeah,
Thanks,
happy Friday.
Megan.
Thank you.